Hello everyone, welcome back to MalStorm Gaming. My name is Malachi Gardner, and today I'm going to be continuing my game of To the Death by Brian Garber. I hope you all enjoy the video.
Alright, so we're going to pick up right where we left off last week, starting a new round with the enemy's turn first before our turn, like usual, and it looks like we're in a pretty good position. The enemy only has 3 hit points left. All of our characters are in the front row, and they all have 6 hit points, except for the Exiled King, who has 5. So, still not too bad. And because they were all in the front row at the end of our last turn, they do not have to suffer any penalties based off of this card. It says draw one less card during the draw step for each far hero. Since they're all in the near front row, they don't have to draw any fewer cards, so we have a full hand of 5 cards, which is good. So, starting out, like usual, we're going to check for start of turn abilities, which this character has none. And again, we do need to also be paying attention to this scroll ability of the Banshee, who has been spawned as a defeated monster. There's no start of turn abilities, so we're just going to go straight onto the attacks. So 2 attacks of 4, and they're ranged. So for the first one, it is a 0 of swords. So it's going to target our fighter, who is the archer. And the archer has 5 armor, 5 defense, so 0 plus 4 is a miss, which is very fortunate. Then we're going to draw the next card, and we're not so fortunate. It is an 8 of wands, so that is going to target our Shadow Mage, who only has 5 armor as well as the archer. So that is going to be a hit, but we have this 8 here, so we could discard this 8 of swords to block that attack. But of course, if we don't, the 8 is the most powerful card, and so we could block this attack, or we could use one of our character's special abilities, such as the Monk's Martial Arts, which says discard a card. So, and that would be, in addition to the 8 you already have to discard, so you have to discard 2 cards. This hero gains Karmic Fists, which is 2 extra melee weapons, and then you get to make a melee attack. So that would be 4 attacks, which is really good, but I do think it is a better idea to discard this 8, because not only would the Shadow Mage be dealt 1 damage, it would also be mangled, which says heroes damaged by this enemy's weapon move down and can't heal damage next turn, and then draw 1 less card during the draw step for each far hero. So there's a lot of extra bad stuff that happens if you get moved down, in this particular instance with fighting against the giant buzzard, so I think it is a good idea to block it, so I discard it, and nothing bad happens to us. Alright, that was the second attack, so now it is our turn, which is the most exciting part of the game. Okay, so we have 2 7s, a 0, and a 5. Alright, let's see. Alright, so I think what I want to do is I'm going to discard the 7 of wands to activate the Exiled King's Blade. So it's 5 to 7, we discarded a 7, so that works. Change the printed value of an adjacent hero's weapons, or melee weapons, sorry, to 3. Now, adjacent again is to the right or left, so this guy is adjacent. Just some extra notes about adjacency. If you are in different areas, you are not adjacent to each other. So the monk here is adjacent to the Exiled King because he's physically next to him. If, on the other hand, he were far, even though their cards are pretty close to next to each other, so the next one over, since they are in different areas, the monk is not adjacent to the Exiled King. The Exiled King would be adjacent to the archer, though, because they are both in the front near area. So yeah, you can't be adjacent to enemies ever, and you also can't be adjacent to people in different areas. Alright, so the monk's weapons are going to be changed to 3s. So he has 2 melee weapons of 0, so those are going to both become 3s, which is pretty cool. And if we had kept that 8, we could have had 2 extra melee weapons, so that'd be 4 attacks of 3. But I do think that we did make the right choice, not having to have all that extra stuff happen to us, although it would have been really nice. Right, let's see. I think I am going to discard this 0 to charge. So, let me charge. We can choose a near hero. While that hero is near, its melee weapons can attack far enemies. Because normally, if you have a melee weapon in your near, you cannot attack far enemies. But with the charge ability, you can. So now the monk can attack the ancient buzzard. Then we are going to discard this 7 right here. So now we're going to activate our Inner Peace ability. So heroes heal +1 damage when they rest. We can do a melee attack or rest. Okay, so we're going to take this little notation card, slide it under our character to show that we have activated the 5 to 7 ability. And again, at the end of our turn, this is going to be removed, and so that's going to denote that, or this ability that was just triggered will become inactive at the end of this turn. So now we are going to either attack or rest. Our character is at full health, so we're going to attack. So we're going to attack with all of our ranged weapons or all of our melee weapons. We don't have any ranged weapons, so we're going to attack with both of our melee weapons. Alright, so that's going to be 3 plus 3 because of the weapon's value that was buffed because of the Exiled King. So that is going to be 3 plus 3, so 6. Now, the giant buzzard has a 7 for his armor value, so that is going to be a miss. If we had discarded this card before we drew, or before we checked, then we would have gotten a +1, and so then we would have hit, but we did not, so we don't get that. So now I'm going to make my second attack. Now I have the chance to discard this card, but I don't think I want to. So I think I'm just going to draw this and see what happens. It's a 7, so 7 plus 3 is 10, which is a hit. So that's going to be 1 damage. So now the giant buzzard has 2 hit points left. Nice. Alright, so I'm going to discard this 5 right here, and then I am going to activate this Shadow Mage to attack. So it's just going to be a basic attack. It has 2 ranged weapons with value 0. And I have no more cards to discard to focus, so I'm just going to draw and hope for the best. It's a 3, so 3 plus 0, that's a miss. This is a 6. 6 plus 0 is again a miss. I took a bit of a gamble there, but I was kind of hoping to be able to defeat the Ancient Bones giant buzzard. But that did not happen. So we're going to draw 5 cards, and then move on to the enemy phase. So again, there's no start of turn effects, so we can just continue going on. I just remembered that I should have discarded this ability notification card here, so I'm just going to do that right now, and then we'll move on to the enemy phase. So there's no start of turn effects, so we're not going to just continue to draw. So we have a 2 of helmets. Our champion, our exiled champion, has 7 armor, plus 1 because he is at 5 health, so that is going to be a miss, because the Exiled King has 8 total armor, and this is going to be a total of 6. Next one. Alright, this is going to be a total of 8, targeting the archer, who has only 5 armor. So we are going to discard this 4 right here to block that. So this is kind of nice for us. We're drawing the right cards, which is good. So now it's our turn, and we can choose whatever we would like to do. So we have 2 5s, a 7, and a 2. Okay, so let's see. I think I will discard this 5 right here, and I'm going to heal the Exiled King. So I'm going to do the rest action, which you can discard any card, and then you can heal 1 hit point. So now he's at max, just like everyone else, which is good. Then I'm going to discard this 2 card to use the Archer's Aim ability down here. So this says, this hero's ranged weapons deal +1 damage, then do a ranged attack. We're going to, just real quick, look through the discard pile here. So there's only 1 card left, so we can actually know exactly what that card is by just looking at the discard pile. And if we realize that it is completely impossible for our archer to hit, what we can do is we can activate the player ability Reset. So we can discard any card to shuffle the discard pile back into the deck. And so that is what that action is for. It's often the hardest action to come to grips with, but it can actually be very useful. So we can look through the discard pile, but we are not actually able to rearrange it in any way. Okay, so this is very interesting. I just looked through the discard pile, and based off of what is in the discard pile and what is in my hand, I can deduce that there are two options. Either it is a 0 or it is an 8, which is, wow, that's a very wide spectrum right there. The reason I can do that is because there are two cards right here, and one of these is actually like a stand-in for the giant buzzard that was spawned by the Ancient Bones. So either this card is a 0 or it's an 8. If it's an 8, we automatically hit it. If, on the other hand, it is a 0, we miss. So, what I think it would be smart to do is, before we discard this card to make the attack with our archer, we should discard one of these two cards here. I'll just discard the 7 here. And we are going to reset the deck. So we're going to shuffle it in, and it was an 8. So, oh well. It was unnecessary, but I did not want to take that chance of just missing my attack when it mattered a lot. So it is better to, I don't know, be safe than sorry, I guess. Alright, so I am all shuffled up here. So now the deck is shuffled up, and now we're going to discard this 2 to make our attack. Then we're going to discard this 5 to focus, so I'll get a +1 to my archer, and then I'll draw this card and hope for the best. And it's an 8, so we got an 8 +1 from the focus and +2 from the archer's weapon, so that is definitely a hit. Alright, so that's going to do 1 damage, and then if we look back at our archer's ability, it says that its weapons do +1 damage, so this guy is no more. We're going to go ahead and discard this card right here. And now that there are no living enemies, the turn immediately ends, which doesn't really affect us because we have no cards in our hand anyway. So we're going to draw back up to our hand size of 5. And then we are going to draw the next monster. So, see what it is. And it is a Spirit Vortex. That's kind of cool. Soul Sucker. Heroes damaged by this enemy's ranged weapon skip their next activation. That's not good. Hellmouth. At the end of each enemy turn, each far hero makes a skill check of 8. On a failure, that hero moves near and is dealt 1 damage. After you activate a hero ability with an 8, each enemy makes a skill check of 9 to attack. Okay, wow, this looks pretty bad. So now the Ancient Bones Skull ability is right there. So now we have all these abilities in addition to what's printed on the card. So this enemy has 5 hit points as denoted right there. So we're going to set this to 5 and we can get to it. Alright, so first off, again, it starts on their turn. It's a new round, and this is a near enemy, so it's going to be near. So everyone is near, so everyone can do melee attacks and all sorts of things like that. We're going to start with looking for any start of turn abilities. Let's see. So, yeah, no start of turn abilities. So we can go on to the attacks. It's going to make 3 attacks. The first 2 are melee attacks of 3, and then the third one is a range attack of 5. Not looking great, so let's see what we have. It's a 0. That's awesome. So it's going to be a melee attack of 0 plus 3 to the champion, which is the Exiled King, who has 7 armor, so that is a miss. Moving on, it's another melee attack. 7 plus 3, that's going to be 10 to our Mender. Our Mender is our monk, and he has 5 armor, so that is going to be a hit, unless, of course, we can discard a 7. And we cannot, so that's kind of unfortunate. Then we are going, now the monk is going to lose 1 life, so now he's at 5. And then, let's see, heroes damaged by this enemy's ranged weapon skip their next activation. That was still the Spirit Vortex's melee attack. That's his second melee attack, so that does not apply to him, and we do not actually need to move our guy down because that was a ability for the giant buzzard, which is good. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the final range attack. So we're going to flip this over. 6. Alright, so 6 plus 5, that's going to be 11 to our magician. We have no 6s, unfortunately, so the Shadow Mage is going to be dealt 1 damage. Also, we are going to set this card in for our Shadow Mage, and that's because of the Soul Sucker ability, which says that the Shadow Mage, since he was damaged by the Spirit Vortexes, we're going to skip their next activation. So he's stunned, basically. He's not going to get a turn. That stinks. Oh well. Alright, then we're going to activate his end of turn ability. So let's see. We have at the end of each enemy turn, each Far hero makes a skill check. Well, we actually don't have any Far heroes, so that's not going to do anything. But if they had failed that skill check, they would be moved near and dealt 1 damage, which is really bad. So let's see. That is it. So now we can move on to the hero phase. So we have 2 5s, a 2, a 3, and a 4. And again, we cannot use the Shadow Mage, which is unfortunate. Okay. Let's see. I'm thinking I'm going to discard a 5 to trigger the King's Blade. So again, what that does is it makes an adjacent hero's weapons into 3s. So the monk, his 0 weapons are going to go to 3 weapons, which is good. Then we are going to discard the Healing Fist. And we do not have to discard an additional card to charge because the Spirit Vortex is near and the monk is also near. So we're just going to go do our Healing Fist. When this hero's melee weapons checks a 7+, heal 1 damage from this or an adjacent hero melee attack. Alright, so if the card we draw is a 7 or an 8, we get to heal someone in addition to hitting them. So let's see what we get. It's a 2. Oh well. 2 plus 3 is going to be a miss. And then going to the next attack, 4 plus 3 is also going to be a miss. How unfortunate. Alright, finally we have the Archer, and so we're going to discard this 3 to do the aim ability on the Archer. So we're going to make a range attack, and if it hits, it's going to do 2 damage. Then we're going to discard these cards to give +2 to that attack. So we're going to draw our card, and it is a 7. So that is going to be a hit for 2 points of damage. So he's down to 3 now. And then our turn's going to be over. We're going to draw 5 cards. I'm going to check for end of turn abilities for the heroes. So first off, we're going to get rid of this enemy ability here. And then, let's see, we're going to draw 1 less card during the draw step for each Far hero. All of our heroes are near, so we're going to get 5 cards, like usual. And then at the end of each hero turn, each hero adjacent to an exhausted enemy is dealt 1 damage. Well, no one's exhausted, and when you're exhausted, that's when you have 1 hit point remaining. Luckily, that does not apply to us, so we're just going to be able to continue playing onto the Spirit Vortex turn. So we're going to draw a card, because again, there's no start of turn abilities. It is going to be a 0, so that's a miss. Alright, this is going to be 4 plus 3, so that's 7, which is going to hit the monk. I could discard this 4 right here, and let's see, do I want to do that? I actually don't think I do. I think I'm going to let the monk get hit, so I can keep that 4 to use it on my turn. Then we're going to do the range attack, and this is going to be a 7 plus 5. That's going to hit the Shadow Mage unless I can discard a 7, which I cannot. So the Shadow Mage is down to 4 hit points, and it skips its next turn as well. Again, there are no Far heroes, so we do not have to worry about that Hellmouth drawing us in, so we can just go on to our turn. Alright, so let's see. I want to activate martial arts for our monk, so we're going to gain 2 extra weapons of 0 and 0, so 2 extra melee weapons, and then we're going to make an attack. Actually, I don't want to do that right now. First, I'm going to do the King's Blade. So I'm going to discard that to buff the monk's weapons to 3s, and then we're going to discard this card in addition to this card because the martial arts clearly tells us we need to discard a second card. And so now the monk has 2 weapons that have a value of 3, and then it has 2 weapons that have a value of 0. And we're going to go ahead and attack the Spirit Vortex. So a first card, which is going to get a +3. Alright, that's a hit. Second card, again, +3. That is unfortunately a miss. And then this is a third card with a +0. Miss. And then a fourth card with a +0. Miss as well. Okay. Then I'm going to discard this 4, which is why I saved it, because I wanted to use the Archer's Aim ability. I'm also going to discard this card to get a +1. And then, here we go. 2 + 2 from the Archer's weapon +1 is unfortunately not enough. So that is going to be our turn. We made some progress. We're going to discard this card here, and then we're going to draw up to our hand size. This is 4 right here, so we're going to need to shuffle this up to draw the 5th one. Then it'll go on to the Spirit Vortex turn. He still does not have any start of turn abilities, so we do not need to resolve any of those. We can move on right to his attacks. So let's see. He's going to make an attack of 3. So 2 + 3, that's going to be 5, which is going to be enough to hit the enemy. And I should have actually drawn a card first, so I'll just draw this one here. So we do not have any 5s. Sorry, we do not have any 2s. So that is going to be a hit for our Shadow Mage. Now, since we're down to 3 hit points, we have this ability here. So it has a little explosion symbol right there, which, if we look at our play rate, is a triggered ability. So what that means is, as soon as we are dealt damage that would put us down to a trigger ability, or if you heal actually, then you activate it immediately, and then it does not go on. The other abilities are like passive upgrades. This hero may melee attack or range attack. Alright. Well, that's pretty good. So this hero actually gets a free attack on the Spirit Vortex before he finishes. So if the Shadow Mage is able to kill the Spirit Vortex, then the Spirit Vortex does not actually get to take any more turns. So let's see. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's discard a card, which will give us a +1. So here we go. And there we go. That's a hit. And then I'll just, we'll draw another one. And it's a 6. That is going to be a miss, unfortunately. So the Spirit Vortex is going to be able to continue attacking us. Second attack is going to be a 9 total. But we do have a 6, so I'm going to discard that 6. And then we have a 5 range attack. We have a 7 here. Do we have a 7? And in fact, we do. So I'm going to discard that one because the range attack is extra nasty with the Soul Sucker ability. So we do not have to do that. And now it's our turn. He's down to 1 life. We have 2 cards. Let's see if we can finish him. Alright, I'm going to discard this 3 right here so that the Shadow Mage will rest. Then I'm going to discard this 8 right here to activate the monk's martial arts. So it says, discard a card. This hero gains Karmic Fists, 2 melee weapons of 0, and then you can make a melee attack. Now here's the thing. It says we need to discard a card. We don't have any cards to discard from our hand, which means that we actually get a free pass. If the wording was slightly different, that would not be the case. So there's 2 very similar ability types, but the wording are very slightly different. So, if the ability says, discard a card, then has a period, and then starts a new sentence saying what happens after that, you try to discard the card, but if you can't, you just continue going on, doing as much as you can. If, on the other hand, it says, discard a card, and then has a comma saying, if you do, then it goes on to say what happens. At that point, you must discard a card in order to do the next action. That's a very important distinction, but in this case, if I understand it correctly, I've worked the system a little bit, and so I can actually make these attacks without having to discard an extra card. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, make 4 attacks of 0, so let's see. And we basically need to draw an 8 to actually hit him, because he has 8 defense, so oh well, that didn't go as planned. I'll just draw up to my hand size, and now the Spirit Vortex gets an extra turn. That's not exactly what I wanted to happen. Oh Oh well. Here we go. This is a 3, so that's going to be 3 plus 3, so that's going to be 6. And I do not have anything to use to block that, so the Shadow Mage is going to be reduced back down to 3, which triggers its triggered ability again, even though it just happened last turn. I'm going to go ahead and discard 4 of these cards right here. It's a very risky move, but it will give me +4 to the Shadow Mage's attack, so hopefully it'll work. Let's see. And we drew a 0, so all that goes for nothing. And then we actually get to draw a second card, which is a 7. So, oh well, I spent a lot of resources on that, and it ultimately failed. Spirit Vortex is going to continue on its turn. It's going to be making an attack of 5 against the Exiled King, which will be a miss. And then the Spirit Vortex will be making an attack of 10 on the Monk. And I am not going to be able to block that, so it's going to do 1 damage, and the Monk's turn will be skipped. Its activation. Alright, so now it's going to be our turn. I'm just going to go ahead and discard this 4 right here and activate Shadow Bolt. So that's going to do 1 damage to the Spirit Vortex, defeating him. Alright, so again, turn ends immediately. We're going to go draw 5 cards. Alright, so now we're going to draw this next monster, and it is a Haunted Organ, and has the ability Otherworldly Fugue. At the beginning of each hero turn, each hero makes a skill check of 6. On a failure, that hero is dealt 1 damage and skips its next activation. Oh boy, more skipping of activations. That's not fun. Then the Poet and the Pendulum. When this enemy is dealt damage, make a check. The hero whose suit matches the check is dealt 1 damage and it moves down. And then heroes have -1 skill. So first, there's 2 interesting things about this. First off, it has no weapons, which is interesting, and it does start down far, but it has no weapons. So the only way it does damage is through its, albeit very powerful abilities. But there's no way he can actually attack us on his own, which is interesting. And second of all, one thing to note is that a huge amount of cards, nearly 200 cards, were created during the Kickstarter campaign for To the Death by Kickstarter backers who helped make them. So, yeah, that is why there's a lot of really cool, kind of quirky ideas inside this game, because there was tons of people submitting their ideas for cards that Brian Garber went on to make. And so, yeah, there's some really cool ideas in here, which is kind of fun. So, we're going to do his turn. So it says, at the beginning of each hero turn, each hero makes a skill check. So we actually don't have anything that we have to do on the enemy's turn. Alright, so let us go on. This card should have been discarded last turn, so the monk can actually act. Let's see. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and discard a 2 to activate the monk's Healing Fist ability. So when the hero's melee weapons checks a 7+, heal 1 damage from this or an adjacent hero, then we can make an attack. Oops, At the beginning of each hero turn, each hero makes a skill check of 6. On a failure, that hero is dealt 1 damage and skips its next activation. So we actually have to do that before doing anything. So first we'll start with the Shadow Mage. So the Shadow Mage has a skill of 4, -1 because of this ability here. So we'll see what we get. And it's a 5 plus 3. That is going to be a success. So the Shadow Mage can do whatever. The Archer, on the other hand, so he has 6. He got 6 -1, so that's a 5. So he actually is dealt 1 damage and does not get to act this turn. The Monk also succeeds. And then we're going to need to shuffle this deck up to see what happens to the Exiled Champion. Alright, that ability is very interesting. Oh, and also I forgot another thing. I'm just forgetting a lot of things, I guess. The enemy has 4 hit points, so we'll set that right now. Alright. Finally, the Exiled King, 7, so that's also a success. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and discard this 8 right here to activate my Shadow Mage's Dark Fate ability. So it says, discard a card. If you do, this hero's weapons deal +1 damage, then range attack. So again, here's the example right here. This one says, if you do. So with the monks, you can kind of work around it. With this one, you have to discard a card in order to do the extra damage. Now, I also just realized that I should have been doing this scroll ability down here saying, after you activate a hero's ability with an 8, each enemy makes a skill check of 9 to attack. I have not been doing that, and by result, I have been making it a little bit easier for me, but from now on, I will be remembering to do that. So after I resolve this ability, I will do that. Alright, so I'll discard a 0 to pay the cost for the Dark Fate ability, and then I can make 2 attacks. 0 for each one I hit, I do 2 damage. So let's see. I think that I would like to discard a card to increase my chances of hitting. So we'll draw a card here. 8. So that is 8 for 2 damage. Now, the Poet and the Pendulum. When this enemy is dealt damage, make a check. The hero whose suit matches the check is dealt 1 damage and moves far. So let's see. It is going to be the fighter. So the fighter is going to be dealt 1 damage and moved far. Alright. Then we are going to make our second attack. I'm going to discard both of these cards to get a +2 to my attack to increase the chances of me hitting. I only need to get a 6, but I want to make sure I hit. 2 plus those 2. I do miss, even though I discarded those, so that kind of stinks. Then the Haunted Organ is going to make a skill check, and it's going to get 0. So if it had gotten higher than a 9, including its +3, it would have succeeded and attacked us. Which actually wouldn't have done anything, now that I think of it, because the Haunted Organ has nothing to attack with. So we're going to draw our 5 cards, and we are going to... Nope, actually, we're only going to draw 4 cards, because the Archer has been moved far. And then we're actually going to discard this card right here. The Haunted Organ is not going to do anything on its turn. At the beginning of the hero turn, which is right now, each hero is going to make a skill check of 6 on a failure. That hero is dealt 1 damage and skips their next activation. So we'll start with the Shadow Mage. Success. Nope. Oh, man. It has a -1 to skill, so it has a 2 plus 3, so it's a failure, so it's going to be dealt 1 damage. And it skips its next activation. Next, we're going to go on to the Archer, and it also fails. This is not looking good. One thing that is kind of cool, now that the Archer is down to 3 hit points, all hero weapons have +2, so that's very helpful, even though it kind of compensates for us dying, I guess. So 3 for the Monk, +3, -1, 5. That's also a failure. Except for the fact that he has +1. So he actually has 3 plus 4 -1, which is a success. So that's good. And now we'll move on to the Exiled King, who also succeeds. Everyone over here has failed, though, so they do not get to do anything. Alright, so we have 2 4s and 2 6s. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to discard the 6 to activate the King's Blade, which will give the monk a +3 to all of his weapons. Then I'm going to discard this 6 to charge with the monk. Then I'm going to discard this 4 to use my monk's Healing Fist. So again, if we check a higher than a 7, we can heal 1 damage from one of our guys. So let's see what we get here. 6 plus 3, so that's going to be a hit. And then, when this enemy is dealt damage, make a check. The hero whose suit matches the check is dealt 1 damage and moves far. So let's see what we get here. And it's a sword. So the Archer is going to be dealt 1 more damage. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and do the second attack for the monk. And I'm going to discard this 4, just to increase the chances of us hitting. And it's a 0. So we do, in fact, miss. But right here, we have the ability saying, when hero weapon misses, draw a card. So we get to draw a card as compensation, which is a 3. I'm going to now be able to draw up to 4 cards, and I'm going to discard this card because I don't really want that one, so I'll have 4 other cards, and I just messed up the deck. Alright, so here we are. Alright, looking pretty good. These are going to be discarded, and the Haunted Organ is going to take his turn, which again, nothing actually happens on the enemy's turn for the Haunted Organ. At the beginning of each hero turn, each hero makes a skill check, so we're going to do that. For the Shadow Mage, it is going to fail. So that's going to be 1 damage, and it skips its next activation. For the Archer, we'll make a check here as well. You know what? I'm going to discard a 3 to increase the chances of us succeeding. It's going to be an 8, so that is a success. The Monk, yeah, I'll discard an extra card to increase the chances again. For +1 from the card we discarded, +1 from his damage card, +3 there, so that's going to be +5, -1, +4. It's a success. Then we are going to have the Exiled King. And I'm going to go ahead and discard this. No, I'm not going to. I'm just going to see what it is. It's a 5. And so he has a +2, -1, so that is going to be a success as well. And then it is going to be our turn. So I am going to go ahead and discard this 4 to activate my Archer's Aim ability. And then I'm going to discard this 8 to increase the chances of me hitting. And then it is a 3 +1 from the card we discarded, +2 from the weapon's value, so it's going to be a 6, which is a hit. So now he is defeated. We're going to make a check because of the Poet and the Pendulum, and so it's going to be a 1, so the Shadow Mage is going to be dealt 1 damage, which means that the Shadow Mage is defeated. Alright. So now, that was not good. Yeah, that really stinks. Well, at least we have gone through most of the enemies. There's 2 enemies left. We may end up being able to do it. We may not. So let's see what the next one is. Captured Troll. Okay, so this one has the Trapper's ability. At the beginning of the first enemy turn, put 2 random monsters from outside the game into play as trappers. When a trapper is defeated, remove it from the game. When there are no trappers in play, this enemy is defeated. Ally. When this enemy attacks, it attacks an enemy of your choice. Cruel. When another enemy's weapon checks a 7+, deal 1 damage to this enemy. At the end of the first enemy's turn, deal 1 damage to each enemy. So the Captured Troll is actually on our side. So there's going to be 2 trapper enemies that are going to come in, and we are going to try to free the troll from them, and then he'll help us. And hopefully we'll be able to do it without the aid of our Shadow Mage. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a great day. Happy gaming!